Right.
It's like, I want to get into this because I think this is a fascinating thing with you personally. Your diet. You're on this carnivore diet now.
Okay, so I want to preface that with something. I am not a dietary expert, so I'm now speaking as an uninformed citizen.
Yes.
Right.
Well, this is anecdotal evidence from a human being that has dealt with autoimmune issues your whole life.
Yes.
You have done this for how long now?
I've been on a pure carnivore diet for about 2 months and a very, very low carb, greens only, modified carnivore diet for about a year.
So in the year...
And a low carb diet for 2 years.
So from the time that I've known you for what, 2.5 years now, something like that?
Yeah.
When I first met you, you had much more weight on your body.
Yeah.
You looked different.
Yeah.
And back then you were eating like the standard diet, right? Like normal people do.
Yes.
Pasta, bread, meat, chicken, whatever.
Yes.
Right? You shifted over to only meat and greens. I saw you and I'm like, you look fantastic. I'm like, what are you doing? And you're like, I changed my diet. I only eat meat and greens. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. Well, I felt like, okay, what you're doing is cutting out refined sugars and all these different things that are problematic, preservatives, all the bullshit, processed foods, and you're having this extreme health benefit. And I was like, wow, that's really excellent. You're showing great discipline. Then you decided to take it to another place and cut out the greens.
Yeah, I know.
What was the motivation for cutting out the greens?
Well, all of the motivation for this has been my experience with my daughter because she has an unbelievably serious autoimmune disease. I just talked to her this morning.
What is it called?
Well, it's arthritis, but there's way more to it than that. But the arthritis was the major set of symptoms. She had 40 affected joints, and she had to have her hip replaced and her ankle replaced when she was 15 and 16. And so she basically hobbled around on 2 broken legs for 2 years in extreme agony. And that was just a tiny fraction of the whole set of problems. I just talked to her this morning. She's in Chicago. Looks like she has to have her ankle replacement replaced. So that's next on the horizon. But apart from that, she is doing so well now. It is absolutely beyond comprehension. So she's very trim. She had a baby, but she's very trim. She's down to about 118 pounds. She's about 5'6". She's just glowing with health. All of her autoimmune symptoms are gone, all of them. And she was also seriously depressed, like severely depressed, way worse than you think. She couldn't stay awake for more than about 6 hours without taking Ritalin. And she was dying. And I had a cousin, my cousin's daughter, she died when she was 30 from an associated autoimmune condition. So there's a fair bit of this in our family. It was bloody bleak, I'll tell you. And my wife always had a suspicion that this was dietary related. And
why?
Well, we did notice that when Michaela was young, if she ate oranges or strawberries, that she'd get a rash. Like there were, and then when she developed arthritis, if she ate oranges in particular, that would definitely cause a flare. It was the only thing we could see. The problem is that in order to identify a dietary component, the response has to be pretty quick after you eat the thing. Like if it's 2 days later, how the hell are you going to figure that out? Right. A lot of these responses appear to be delayed for 4 days and last a month. So good luck figuring that out. Anyways, Michaela noticed about 3 years ago, no more than that now, 5 years ago, she was at Concordia University and struggling with her illness and all the associated problems. She noticed that around exam time, she was starting to develop real skin problems. And my cousin's daughter, who I mentioned, had really bad skin problems and wounds that wouldn't heal. And that was partly part of the process that eventually killed her. And she thought, oh, it must be stress. And then she thought, wait a second, I really changed my diet. When I'm studying, all I do is eat bagels. All I do is eat bread, sandwiches. She thought, maybe it's the bread. So she cut out gluten first. And it had a remarkable effect, like a really remarkable effect. And then she went on a radical elimination diet all the way down to nothing but chicken and broccoli. And then her symptoms started to drop off one by one. Like one of the things that happened is she started to wake up in the morning. She started to be able to stay awake all day. And when you're only staying awake for 6 hours with Ritalin, staying awake all day, that's like having a life. And so a whole bunch of things improved. Then her depression went away. And I've had depression since I was 13 probably, and very severe. And I've treated it a variety of ways, some of them quite successfully. But it's been a constant battle. And my father had it, and his father had it. And it's all just rife in my family. And my wife has autoimmune problems in her.
When you say depression, define it.
How would you define it?
Because that's a blanket term.
Yeah. Well, imagine that you wake up and that you remember that all your family was killed in a horrible accident yesterday.
You would feel that even
all
if nothing was wrong.
Yes.
Just
it's
dread.
Actually worse than that. Because
really?
One of the things Michaela told me was she thought, well, what's it like to be depressed? Well, imagine you have a dog and you really love the dog, and then the dog dies. And then about 3 years ago, our dog died. And that was Michaela's dog, and she really liked that dog. And she said, that was bad, but it's nowhere near as bad as being depressed. And I asked her too at one point when she was about 15 or 16. I said, look, you've got a choice, kid. Here's the choice. You can either have depression or arthritis. Which one? I'll take the arthritis. Well, that was after she'd lost 2 joints. So it was no joke. It's no joke, man.